Welcome to the Earning Freedom Program. I'm really thrilled to introduce you to a phenomenal leader. He is my friend, TheArthur Duncan, who's just got the most extraordinary story that you're ever going to hear. And I don't want to tell his story for you. I just want to bring him along and let him share with us how he was able to overcome struggle to become a community leader that you are going to respect just as I do. TheArthur, thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy day to speak with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of background you had.
Well, I was born in Los Angeles, California. Grew up partly in South Central LA and in Buffalo, New York. When my mother was out in LA by herself, my father was in Vietnam, so she sent me back to Buffalo to be primarily being raised by my grandparents. So I spent the majority of my elementary school days going back and forth from LA to Buffalo. I did kindergarten in LA, first grade in Buffalo, second grade in LA, third. So back and forth, fifth through eighth in Buffalo. And then I went back out to LA for high school.
And what kind of student were you in South Central LA or the inner cities of Buffalo, if that's where you were?
Honor roll student, straight A's. I was so smart that everybody used to copy off my papers. So I got upset. So I used to write the wrong answer and then let them copy it. And then after they turn it in, then I erase it. And then I change the answer. So, and then turn it in. So I was always very smart. But I found myself as I got, just socially kind of dumbing my smarts down. I wanted to fit in, so I didn't want to be the smart kid because back then being smart wasn't cool.
And so how did that play out for you through school by trying to dumb it down? How was your experience going through school?
Well, elementary school up until eighth grade. When I left Buffalo, I was the eighth grade president. I graduated at eighth grade in Buffalo. I was the smart kid, but again, I wanted to play ball. I wanted to be a rapper, do all the things that the popular crowd did. So, it got me into crowds that I shouldn't have been in. I should have been, in my books and my studies, but I wanted to hang with the in crowd and stuff. So, at points in my life, it got me into the situation that further into my life got me incarcerated.
Well, when did that start? When did you start having trouble with the law?
Well, kind of before, I get to that, when I went out to LA, started living with my mother, and my mother was living with her boyfriend and my little brother. And I got out to LA, then I had to get adjusted to the gangbangers out there, the Crips and Bloods. Had some encounters with them. I had a Crip put a knife to my throat, take my jacket. I lived in a Blood neighborhood, but I went to school with Crips. So I was constantly, fighting that dynamic, trying to stay out of trouble, talking my way out of different situations, telling guys I'm from New York. I didn't know what was going on. So while I was trying to adjust to that dynamic outside the home, inside the home, my stepfather began to smoke crack heavily, began to abuse my mother, steal from us, breaking out. I would come back from basketball practice and the VCR be gone, TV be gone. He even stole my basketball trophies. He started hitting on my mother. Even after my mother kicked him out, he would bang on the doors 3, 4 in the morning, keeping us up. So, and it got so bad that the drug dealers threatened to kill him and my mother if the drug debt wasn't paid. So, after that, the drug debt was eventually paid, but that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth being in LA. So I decided to go to Buffalo to catch a break from everything that was going on in LA. When I got to Buffalo, my friends I went to school with back in elementary, they were all selling drugs. And so I told myself that I would never sell any drugs because of the detriment I went through in LA and all the stuff I went through because of drugs in LA. And also with, with the violence that's perpetrated by, with the drugs. But these guys were my friends. I grew up with them since kindergarten when I was in Buffalo, and I kept hanging around them. They started buying me things, taking me places. I tried to work, but I really couldn't work because I was too busy hanging out with these guys. And eventually I had my oldest son, and now I had a mouth to feed. So I started to justify what I was doing. So I started off selling a little marijuana, and eventually I started selling crack.
How old were you at that time?
22. I was 22.
So you're 20.
Go ahead.
22 years old when you start getting involved in the drug rackets. And how old are you when you finally? How long do you last before the authorities come after you?
I was 30. I was 31 when I went to federal prison.
And your sentence was how long?
I got sentenced to 46 months, and with good time in the drug program, I wind up doing almost 3 years.
So you started in Allenwood, is that right?
Yep. Allenwood Federal Prison Camp. Yep.
Tell us about the mindset you had when you first walked into the prison and what you were going to do with your life.
I first stepped into prison. I just felt like that, I had disappointed myself and every person ever in my life, and that I had basically made myself a modern day slave. And by my actions, that I risked it all for the monetary things in life, and basically it wasn't worth it. So I walked into prison with a mindset that, I was going to do my time, kind of stay out of trouble. And, coming home was going to give me a fresh start. I was lucky that my charge wasn't as severe as it could have been. The guy I caught my case with, when he cooperated, he didn't give them the full details, so it gave me a break. So I got to 46 months, and that was my time out, and I was going to do my time, and I was going to come home, with focus and ready to, change my life.
So when you went in there, you had your own accountability logs of things that you were going to accomplish within that period of time that you were in prison. You said, this is what I'm going to achieve. That's what it sounds like to me, is that you had a real plan in there, and then it was just about executing that plan.
Yeah, well, all the while, even when I was selling drugs, I grew up in a house where my grandfather was a pastor. And so all the while I knew I was wrong, what I was doing. But I kept justifying what I was doing. But again, I knew I was wrong. So going to jail gave me a chance to break off, because I always would say I'm going to stop when I see this amount of money, or I'm going to stop at this period of time, but I would never stop. So jail gave me an opportunity to come home and start anew. My friends that I was running the streets with, they were still out there hustling. And so when I got home, got in the halfway house, they was ready to resume my old stumping grounds and my old things. And I decided I wasn't going that route.
Well, what types of accomplishments were you able to do while you were still locked up?
Nothing, no programming really. It was all about just getting myself together. I was a clerk in food service. I was working out and just getting my mind right. And, going to church a lot and just getting focused and being able to be strong enough, that getting myself together to be strong enough that when I came home, that I could separate myself from, my old friends and stuff, and be strong enough mentally not to get into my old habits. So it was basically more concentrating on myself and knowing what I'm going to do and not going to do. Again, when I was gone, none of my friends came to visit me, of course. And, and I was, it was basically, this me just getting myself together. And so I was able to get myself together and get right and be focused on what I was going to do when I got home. And basically I left my pride in jail, that I was, that I would be able to come home and not have that pride that of being a drug dealer and driving big cars and all that. I wasn't about that anymore. So I came home, I caught the bus, caught the train, but I felt good because I wasn't looking over my shoulder no more, waiting for the police to come get me.
So before you went into prison, how far did you go in school?
High school diploma. I graduated from high school.
Yeah. You graduated high school. then you get involved in the drug business, then you go to prison, and you get out, and you're trying to find a way to break away from the criminal lifestyle. So you've already got that discipline because you worked on yourself while you were in prison.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what you were able to do, even, having a felony background. What did you do with your life after you got out of prison?
I mean, well, with this, the difficult part comes in that, getting out of prison, getting in the halfway house, I couldn't find a job. I almost went back because I think I had 3 months to find a job, and I couldn't find a job. So I'm thinking, I don't know.
What year was that, Arthur?
2003.
So 2003.
Yep. So I almost went back because I couldn't find a job, and I had a little pride because I wasn't trying to do fast food restaurants. So at the last minute, I did find a job driving people in wheelchairs at a wheelchair van service, and they gave me a chance. They gave me a chance. They gave me a job, and so that kept me out. Not I had to go back to jail. I finished my 6 months in the halfway house, and I actually stayed working at that job. I did that for probably about 7 years, and I did it while I was going to school at the same time. And the job allowed my schedule to be flexible enough that I could work 40, 50 hours a week driving a van and attend college full time.
And did your discipline that you put on yourself in prison, how did that influence your academic studies? Were you able to, because you'd already gone through prison, do you feel that made you a better student?
Oh, yes, of course, because I was focused. I mean, I hate to use the cliche, but playtime was over. I got out of jail, and I got married the year after I got out of jail. So I had a wife and 3 kids at the time. I'm working and I'm focused. I know what I have to do. I have to take care of my family. And so, yes, that definitely played a big part because, I wasn't all about, a lot of times people go to college, they want to play sports, they want to get into social activities and stuff. I was all about grades and doing the best I could and trying to just get through so I can, graduate and try to get a better job and help my family.
Did you have an idea of what you were going to do after you finished college?
Had no idea whatsoever when I enrolled in college. I just knew that I needed something to counteract this felony. So I was like, let me get some letters behind my name. Let me get a bachelor's, a master's, something just to kind of counteract this felony. So I enrolled into Erie Community College. I got close with a professor there. I had him for a couple of classes. He asked me what I wanted to do after I got my associates. And I told him I always wanted to be an attorney, but I didn't think I could. And he said, why not? And I said, well, I'm a convicted felon, and I just did like 3 years in federal prison. And he asked me, he said, does that bar you from becoming an attorney in New York? And I assumed it did. And that's one thing I tell people when I do my speeches and I talk, and I was like, don't assume anything. And because if I assumed that, I wouldn't have never look into it. But he took it upon himself and looked into it for me, came back and said, there's good news and there's bad news. He was like, the good news is that there's no bar to becoming an attorney in New York State. And I said, well, what's the bad news? He said, well, the bad news is that it's discretionary and that you're going to have to get your associates, get your bachelor's, get your Juris Doctorate, take and pass the New York State bar, amount all this school debt, these loans, then go in front of this committee of lawyers and judges, was called the Character and Fitness Committee, and they can tell you no. And so basically it was whether I was wanted to take that chance or not.
Wow. So what an awesome struggle ahead. I mean, you've got on the one hand, success from holding yourself accountable while you're in prison, getting out, going through the struggle of a low-paying job while simultaneously going to school, holding yourself accountable to get through all those courses, and then here a dream of being an attorney, but there's still like a long ways to go after that. Tell us how you ended up getting through that process. What did you do next?
It was difficult. I bust my butt, and I graduated from junior college with like a 3.6 GPA. I got into University of Buffalo undergrad. I graduated there with honors with like a 3.5. But then I couldn't get into.
Did you do this right after the other? So out of prison, into community college, out of community college, then into Buffalo right away?
Yeah, I got out of jail in I got out of the halfway house May 2003. I enrolled into junior college that January of 2004. So a little like 7 months later, after I got out the halfway house, I graduated from ECC, which is a community college. Went straight from there to my 4-year. After I graduated with my bachelor's, I didn't get into. We only had one law school here, University of Buffalo, and at the time, I'm married with a wife and 4 kids at that time, so I couldn't leave the family. I got on a wait list at the University of Buffalo Law School. I didn't get in. Reapplied the next year, so I just worked another year. Reapplied the next year, didn't get in again. So at this time, I'm like, and I had got into other law schools, so I had to convince my wife that it was best for the family for me to leave for a year to pursue my dream. And so I wind up going to my first year law school in Cleveland, which is a 3.5-hour drive from Buffalo. My first semester there, I almost flunked out because I was basically commuting. I was driving back and forth like at least 5 or 6 times a week, not studying, because I had to come home back to Buffalo to take care of my family. So first semester, I got 3 Ds and 2 Cs. So now I almost flunked out of law school. Second semester, I stopped coming home, and I was able to, and I got 2 A's and 3 B's the second semester. And then I was able to transfer back to University of Buffalo Law School and then do my 2 years of law school, my 2 final years of law school here at home.
That's a lot of commitment, brother. That's a lot of commitment and a lot of work. But God bless that worked out, but that wasn't the end of the journey. Just getting into law school was a big challenge. Took you several years. Also getting the credentials beforehand, then getting the JD, but that isn't enough. What else you got to do?
Well, I had to pass the bar. First time I took the bar, I failed by 3 points. Primarily because I'm a terrible typer. And when I was taking the bar, people were typing away, and I started getting anxiety because I was plucking with one finger. So I failed the bar the first time by 3 points. Then they only give the bar twice a year, so I had to wait 6 months to take it again. I took it the second time and I passed it. While I was in law school, I was chief law clerk for the law department of the city of Buffalo. Once I passed the bar, I got hired as assistant corporation counsel. And part of my duties as assistant corporation counsel, as a civil litigation attorney, my job was to defend the city of Buffalo and all their departments in civil litigation, which includes the police department. So here you have a convicted felon who did 3 years in federal prison, now defending the police department as an attorney. So, I mean, that was big right there.
It sure is big. That's the type of an amazing turnaround that I need to bring inside of the prisons, because so many people live with that same type of misperception that you had. You didn't even know as a felon you could become an attorney. But I love your advice that says, don't ever assume anything. Make yourself aware of opportunities and make the world aware of you. And, people are going to let you in. But I know that you said you passed the bar. You still had to get past the character and fitness committee. Tell us a little bit about what type of challenge you faced there.
Well, the character and fitness committee, I put in my bar application. I had to disclose all my arrests and every time I've been arrested, which is probably about 10 times for various things from fighting to drugs. So I had to disclose everything. And when I went to the character and fitness committee, of course, I was very nervous. There were probably about 100 people in the room. And how they do it is one person is assigned to your file. And so I was pretty sure that my file would be on the bottom and I would be one of the last persons called. And of course, I was right. So I sat there for maybe 2 hours, and about the time they called my name, there had to be about 5 people left in the room. And so I went into the room with the guy, and I had rehearsed the answer for every question that I thought they would ask. about every arrest. And the ironic part was he didn't ask me about none of my arrests. Basically, he told me that, I was basically the epitome of someone who had changed their life. And by the time I got to the Character and Fitness Committee, I had been in, the legal arena for amount of time that I had interned for judges, formed relationship with politicians and my pastor and so on and so forth. So when I went to the Character and Fitness Committee, I had letters from 3 judges, letters from a prominent assemblywoman here in New York, a letter from my pastor, the person that was assigned to my file. He had called my boss, corporation counsel for the city of Buffalo. So basically he told me that, he had been doing this for a long time, and that he see I had changed my life, and that what I did was a long time ago. So when I graduated from law school, I graduated law school in 2012. And so I got released in prison in 2003. So basically over them 9 years, I had demonstrated that I had changed my life sufficiently that he was, he was voting in my favor to pass for me to be admitted. But he also said that since I had a felony, that it had to go in front of the rest of the committee, and that he told me to go back in the room, that he would get back to me. So I went back in the room, and it was me and like 2 other people there waiting to go in front of the full committee. But instead of going in front of the full committee, he called me back into the room and said that I didn't have to go in front of the full committee, that they had okayed me and that I could go on home.
Oh my God.
So
what were you thinking? What's going through your head as you're waiting there and your whole future is just sitting in your hand because you invested so much time and energy, and now it's up to these other people to determine whether you've got the good character to be a lawyer? What's going on in your head?
I was praying, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. The guy behind me, he was telling the other guy how he was worried about a disorderly conduct that he got arrested for in law school. And I'm like, if this guy only knew what I'm sitting here worried about. So I was very nervous, but by the grace of God, they okayed me, and
then you were a lawyer. Then you got your bar card, and that allowed you to practice law in the state of New York.
Yep. Been practicing. I'm like almost 5 years now. I actually resigned from the city of Buffalo as assistant corporation counsel, and I opened up my own law firm, and now I'm practicing criminal law here in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, that is awesome. Congratulations. What are you doing, trials or federal law, state law? What kind of work are you doing?
That's a 2-part question. I'm doing criminal law, trials and everything. But right now I'm only barred in New York State, so I can only do like New York State cases. But it's funny that you bring this up, because Wednesday I'm getting admitted to federal practice. Now catch this. In order to get admitted to federal practice, you have to petition in front of the federal court. Well, my petition is in front of the judge, my sentencing judge. And the attorney that defended me on my criminal case is my sponsoring attorney. So this is a total 360. So now I'm going back in front of the same judge that sentenced me to 46 months to be admitted to federal practice. And the attorney that defended me in my federal criminal case is now my sponsoring attorney. And he's going to stand up in front of the court and petition the court to have me admitted into federal practice. And this is happening on Wednesday.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, TheArthur. This is just such an amazing story. And you're such an inspiration to everybody who's in prison, who needs to recognize that if they put forward the effort, they can overcome past decisions and build a brand new life. Now, I know you didn't only go to school and become an attorney and all these other things. You've accomplished other things as well. And I'd love to see that book that you created, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing in there.
This book was therapy for me. I wrote this book, and this is about my journey going from a felon to an attorney, hence the title, Felon Attorney. And basically, I wrote this to inspire. And I wrote this for people to know that, the same way that I got out of jail, that you can get out of jail and do the research and find out what you can and can't do. I also wrote it for people that's in a position to give jobs, in a position to write letters of recommendation, to be able to say, okay, we're going to help this guy because look what TheArthur did. So they can point at me as someone, a reference, like TheArthur changed his life and look what he did. So we're going to give this person an opportunity too. And so that's one reason why I wrote the book. I had some individuals saying that I shouldn't put my story out there, but I mean, the way I changed my life is, and the way I've been blessed is not something that it was meant to be kept a secret. You know what I mean? It's my hope that people read this book and they're motivated by it and inspired by it. I'm not saying everybody can become an attorney, but you can be something successful in society. You know what I mean? Whatever it is you want to do the research. Don't assume you can't do it. I had some individuals become nurses with felonies because of my story. People told them they couldn't become registered nurses, but they didn't believe them. And because of my story, they're registered nurses. So that's why I wrote this book, in hopes of inspiring people that they can change their life and be productive citizens.
Well, TheArthur, I just want to thank you so much for giving us that inspiring story. And I really wish you continuing success in your journey. I will do my best to take your story inside of the American prisons and show more people what's necessary, how if they keep fighting to become a better citizen, they can go from being a felon who's prosecuted to being represented by the legal institution and just build a better life. And I know you're going to be an awesome federal attorney, and I know you've got a lot more success in your life, and I'm just so proud to call you a friend.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you reaching out. I'm just trying to do my part. I mean, I got to give back. I did a lot of bad things in my life, so this is my journey, to try to give back.
Well, we're all inspired by you, as well as by other leaders like Mandela and Viktor Frankl and Malcolm X and all these people that have gone through struggle but came back to society to become successful. That's what this show is about. That's what this program is about. And I'm just so glad that you were able to share your story with us.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on the show again.